The Pale Carnival. The carnival arrived at twilight, as if carried by the dying light itself. It appeared on the outskirts of the town, tents unfolding from the mist, wheels creaking like bones, lanterns flickering with a pale, unnatural flame. The air smelled of burnt sugar and rust. Somewhere, faint music drifted. A calliope tune slow enough to sound mournful, its notes bending like a sigh through the fog. Children pressed their faces to glass windows, drawn by the glow. Parents whispered about how no one had seen the wagons arrive, how no horses pulled them, how the ground beneath the tents was always cold. Yet by nightfall, the carnival gates opened all the same, and laughter, thin, strained, uncertain, filled the air. Elias Crane stood among the crowd, notebook in hand, the brim of his hat pulled low. He had been sent by the Evening Ledger to write an exposé, another sensational piece about superstition, he thought. Traveling troops always drew stories of oddities and omens, but something about this one felt wrong. The banners looked aged, as though painted a century ago. The performers' smiles never reached their eyes. He made a note in his book. The Pale Carnival, a spectacle of shadows and secrets. As he moved deeper between the tents, the world seemed to shift. The laughter dulled, replaced by whispers. The light dimmed, though the torches burned brighter. A juggler tossed glass spheres that glowed faintly crimson in the air. A contortionist bent backward until her spine made the sound of cracking ice. The ringmaster, a tall, skeletal man with eyes like smoke, raised his hat to Elias as he passed, a knowing smile playing across his lips. "Welcome, sir," he said, his voice a purr. "You look like a man hungry for a story." Elias forced a grin. "And you look like a man who has one." The ringmaster's smile deepened. "Then perhaps we can feed each other." Over the following nights, Elias embedded himself among the performers. He watched the way they moved, graceful, silent, almost floating. He saw the strange way light avoided them, how their shadows clung to their feet, even when the torches flickered from another angle. He interviewed a fortune-teller whose hands were as cold as stone. Her cards were painted in blood and sealed with wax that never melted. "We don't feed on flesh here," she told him, eyes glimmering like candlelight. "Only on what lives behind the eyes. Fear tastes purest when it's freely given." Elias laughed then, but the sound felt hollow. That night, when he returned to his tent, he couldn't sleep. He felt watched. His dreams were full of red moons and whispering crowds chanting his name. When he woke, his skin was pale, and the morning sunlight seared his eyes like acid. He told himself it was exhaustion. Just nerves, nothing more. By the 5th night, he stopped leaving the carnival grounds. The city beyond the fence seemed unreal, washed out and distant, like a dream he'd once had but couldn't quite recall. He still took notes, though his handwriting had grown erratic, shaky. He wrote, "They feed on fear, but not to kill. They drink it like wine. And we, the spectators, offer ourselves willingly." He noticed how the audience always grew quieter with each act, their awe curdling into dread. Some wept during the trapeze performance, though they couldn't say why. Others fainted during the finale, eyes wide open, smiles carved by terror. And when the lights came back, those who fell never seemed to wake. The ringmaster approached him after the show one evening, holding out a glass of red liquid that glimmered like rubies in the lantern light. "For the nerves," he said. Elias hesitated, then drank. It burned down his throat, sweet, metallic, electric. He gasped, but the ringmaster only watched, serene. "Now you understand," he whispered. "Fear is life, and you have tasted eternity." Days lost meaning. Elias's reflection faded. His skin grew translucent, his heartbeat faint. The carnival became his world, its lights, his sun, its whispers, his prayer. He no longer wrote to expose, he wrote to remember. In his final entry, found months later in a rain-soaked notebook, the ink had run, but the words were still legible. They promised to reveal what hides beneath the mask of wonder. I thought I'd uncover a truth, but the truth was hunger. Beautiful, endless, pale as dawn. I cannot stand the sunlight now. It feels like betrayal. The carnival moves tonight, and I move with it. I have no fear left to give, only to take. When the Pale Carnival left town, it did so without a trace. Only the faint scent of burnt sugar lingered in the fields, and the grass where the tents once stood never grew again. Weeks later, a child walking along the riverbank found a single poster tangled in reeds. It showed the carnival's smiling ringmaster, his eyes gleaming with the promise of delight. Beneath the faded print were the words, "One night only. Come and lose yourself in the light." And in the corner, scrawled in dried ink that looked like blood, E. Crane, staff reporter. That night, as the fog rolled in from the sea, some swore they heard the faint, mournful tune of a calliope drifting through the mist, the sound of laughter and weeping intertwined, and faintly the echo of a voice whispering, "Step right up. The show never ends."